Hello and welcome. This is Lawrence for Create a Learning Site, the place to go deeper in your understanding of the Bible. With this video, I'm announcing my next special project. I will be reading the New Testament in Greek. Now, I don't know about you, but every once in a while my Bible reading starts to run dry. I'm not getting much out of it anymore. And I catch myself thinking the same thoughts I had last time I read a particular passage. Often when I reach this point, I'm in a rut and I simply need to change something. 27 years ago, this is what brought me to do YWAM's School of Biblical Studies. And boy, that school, SBS, together with a Master's in Biblical Studies, gave me ammunition for years of productive, refreshing, fruitful personal Bible reading. More recently, and less drastically, I decided to read the Bible in Spanish, something I completed last year. It was slow going. My Spanish isn't that great, but reading a new version in a different language really opened up a fresh encounter with Scripture for me. It's often over-familiarity with the text that holds me back from actually seeing and getting what it says. I think over-familiarity is a real problem once you've been reading the Bible for many years. And I'm sort of at that point again. Now it's time for a change, and I'll make it a special project. For this year, I would like to read the Greek New Testament. Since it is a special project, I will be reporting on my progress, but not on Create a Learning Site. More on this in a moment. I'll be using a different platform to report. But first, let me give you a brief overview of my foundations in New Testament Greek. I did a full-time 3-month course in New Testament Greek many years ago, 1991. That was part of my master's. And I've used Greek from time to time in Bible study and especially in lecture preparation, but not as much as I would like. In fact, I feel my grammar and my vocabulary are a bit rusty, which is an additional reason I would like to do this project. I will be using Logos Bible Study software for this. Here's the Greek text of Matthew. One reason is it enables quick lookups of word meaning, like here, and also gives information on the morphology of a word, that is, its form, inflection, and function in the sentence, which is what you see here. Call it cheating if you will, but I would like to finish before the end of the year, not by the end of the decade. Now, as I said, I'm not going to post updates for this special project on Create a Learning Site. I'm not planning to send out emails or do videos either. Create a Learning Site will continue to be the place for longer and more substantial articles, so it also functions as a resource site, not cluttered by a large number of short entries. Instead, I'd like to try out Tumblr, which you see here. For one, because this is a bit of a subversive platform with a twist, as you can see here, with not that much good Christian content on it. I guess all the Christians are on Facebook. In addition, Tumblr, you see my Tumblr site, Tumblr allows me to have posts automatically shared on Facebook and Twitter as well, so people can still choose through which channel to follow my progress if they would like to. I have already done a trial run with the Gospel of Matthew, which you see here, to find out if this is doable, and I quite like the experience. So over the course of this month, March 2016, I will publish a number of short entries based on this trial run. Afterwards, I will continue with reading the Gospel of Mark. And whenever I run into something interesting, I will blog about it on Tumblr. Before I give you a foretaste of what I'm heading into and what I'll be publishing, I am aware of at least some of the pitfalls linked with reading and interpreting Greek. Multitudes of strange and questionable interpretations have been built with the help of Greek magic. It's amazing what you can do once you learn to dazzle your audience with the trick of manipulating Greek words and verb tenses. I will give just two examples here, but they're widespread and important ones. Much is sometimes made of a particular verb being in the aorist as opposed to being in the imperfect form. Now, the imperfect form of a verb implies that an action has duration, or it's repeated, so it's going on for a length of time. In many cases, this can be translated into English using the construction he was walking or he was listening and so forth. Now, does this mean that the aorist then is punctiliar in the sense that an action occurs only once or even once and for all? It's often interpreted this way, but this is emphatically not the case. Instead, the aorist form means the author or speaker abstains from giving this kind of information. He's merely indicating the action took place without letting us know anything about duration or repetition, yes or no. This is why it's called the aorist. It does not have boundaries. It is undetermined. Quote, the aorist draws no boundaries. It tells nothing about the nature of the action under consideration. It is punctiliar only in the sense that the action is viewed without reference to duration, interruption, completion, or anything else. The aorist can properly be used to cover any kind of action, single or multiple, momentary or extended, broken or unbroken, completed or open-ended. The aorist simply refrains from describing. This quotation is from an article by Frank Stagg titled The Abused Aorist, and even though it was first published in 1972, it's still well worth reading. If you're interested, you'll have to go to create a learning site, wilrens.org. There you'll find the link to the article. The second example of Greek magic has to do with word meaning. Sometimes, obviously, a word often will have more than one possible meaning, but sometimes every sense a word can have, and numerous possible nuances or shades of meaning or special technical senses it sometimes has, are brought to bear on that word in a particular passage. Never mind that the author did not have all those uses in mind when he wrote. In all probability, he only intended one, or perhaps two, if he used deliberate ambiguity. It may not be possible to be certain which meaning exactly was intended, but it certainly won't be every meaning the term can possibly have all at once. To illustrate this tendency to overinterpretation, consider this commentary offered by a fictive scholar in the year 2790, yes, 2790, based on an English text newly discovered around that time. So here is the commentary. Consider also the subtleties implied by the statement that her supervisor approached her. The verb approach has a rich usage. It may indicate similar appearance or condition, as in this painting approaches the quality of a Picasso. It may have a sexual innuendo. The rapist approached his victim. It may reflect subservience. he approached his boss for a raise. The cognate noun can be used in context of engineering, access to a bridge, sports, of a golf stroke following the drive from the tee, and even war, a trench that protects troops besieging a fortress. By the way, this fictional commentary written by Moises Silva is worth reading in full as well. There's more like this. So let's see if I can do better and steer free from these and other pitfalls during my reading project. Let me share two things that I came up with during my trial run on the Gospel of Matthew. First, there's an interesting word used in Matthew chapter 1 verse 11. You see it here. Metoikesias, translated deportation or exile of Israel to Babylon. Now, what makes it interesting is it includes the Greek word oikos, meaning house. We find it in English words like economy and ecology. The eco derives from the Greek word oikos. And then a preposition has been added to it, meta, which in this case suggests a change. So taken at face value, the word would mean a change of house or a change of living place, living location. Now, I'm aware that the reality was a lot more violent and horrible than this makes it sound, a house change. Deportation catches it better, but there may be a point in our lives where we need God to do something like this, uproot us, make us move to a different location. Metoikesias. He did it with Israel around 586 BC, and it happened to me 5 years ago. Certainly wasn't fun, but I have to admit that the change also greatly enriched our lives. Okay, so lest I make myself guilty of the very kind of overinterpretation I just criticized, I admit this has little to do with the Greek text or message of Matthew. I'm just fascinated by this word and by how Greek language works. So let me indulge once more in this kind of reflection. I will try to be more text-focused in future posts on my reading project. In Matthew 2, verse 23, we find another word based on the Greek word oikos, this time a verb, katokesen, or in present tense, katoikeo, which combines the noun oikos with the preposition kata, which adds a subtle nuance, even though the simple verb oikeo without kata has a similar meaning. The result, in both cases of both verbs, is a verb that means more than simply to live somewhere or spend some time there. It means to settle in or dwell or inhabit a place. And it struck me that there is a difference. Do I merely live where I happen to be, or do I indeed settle there and inhabit a place and embrace the circumstances? Jesus, it appears, did more than merely bide time in Nazareth. If you'd like to hear more on this special project, you can follow me on Tumblr, wilrens.tumblr.com, or you can go to Create a Learning site at www.wilrens.org and find more information on how you can stay up to date on this reading project. Thank you for watching this video, and I hope to talk to you next time on Create a Learning site.